Hello and welcome to Lunchtime Politics. I'm Kairo Kikielu here in Lagos. First, the highlights. Well, the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal is in session for day 2 of the full proceedings as the panel tells parties in the case to avoid time wasting. The cases of the APM and the PDP are up for consideration today. An anxiety high in Osun State as the Supreme Court makes the final pronouncement on the 2022 Osun governorship election. Whose way will it swing? The PDP's Governor Adeleke or former Governor Oyetola of the APC? Well, Channels Television is live at the court. The APC's decision on its preferred leaders for the 10th Assembly is not sitting down well with some senators and members-elect alike. Will the 10th Assembly witness the drama we saw at the 8th Assembly? That's a big question. Well, it's day 2 of full proceedings at the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal. And today, the 5-man panel led by Justice Haruna Samani told all the parties involved to avoid waste of time by consolidating their issues for determination. But 2 cases are up for consideration today, that of the Allied People's Movement, APM, and the People's Democratic Party, the PDP. Already for the APM, which is challenging the victory of the President-elect Bola Tinubu on the grounds that the election was marred with electoral malpractice, violence, among others, pre-hearing has been adjourned till May the 11th. Lawyers representing the APC and the President-elect, as well as the Vice President-elect, are however asking the court to dismiss the petition. The court subsequently stood down its proceedings and moved over to consider the last petition for the day, which is that of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, and its presidential candidate, Mr. Atiku Abubakar. Well, Mr. Abubakar and the PDP are asking the tribunal to declare him winner of the election or alternatively order a rerun between him and the president-elect, Senator Bola Tinubu. Let's now head over to the appeal court where the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal is sitting for live updates for you. Our correspondent, Emanuela Ekele, has been covering this. We understand that the counsel to Mr. Atiku Abubakar, Mr. Chris Uche, has been briefing in the aftermath of today's sitting. Quite a very interesting scenario playing out. So let's see if we can bring you live images from the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal for you right now. Well, Emanuela, quite a very interesting day it's turning out to be. Things are happening really fast. We understand this is a developing story. So the APM's case was up, the PDP's case was up for consideration as well. Can you tell us what played out today so far? All right, we'll try to get you our correspondent, Emanuela, who's been following the proceedings live at the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal, just to get Nigerians up to speed with what is playing out there. Essentially, we've told you that the panel has asked all of the parties to ensure that they consolidate their cases and reduce time wastage. The APM's case was up for consideration. That's all Allied People's Movement as well as the People's Democratic Party, the PDP. It appears that the case of the PDP has also perhaps been adjourned, but it's still preliminary yet, so we'll get the updates for you from our correspondent, Emanuela Ekele, right there. But apart from the proceedings at the tribunal, all eyes are also on the Supreme Court today, where judgment is to be delivered in an appeal filed by Mr. Adegboyega Oyetola of the All Progressives Congress against the judgment of the Court of Appeal, which upheld the election of Senator Ademola Adeleke as the governor of the southwestern state. Well, the 5-member panel, led by Justice John Okoro, fixed today for its judgment after listening to all the parties in the suit. The Governorship Election Tribunal, sitting in Osogbo, had in January upturned the victory of Governor Adeleke in that election, which took place last year, saying that he was not validly elected. And afterwards, in March, the Court of Appeal nullified that judgment and upheld Governor Adeleke's victory. Mr. Oyetola and the APC then escalated to the Supreme Court, where judgment is expected today. All right, it's a very busy day at the courts, and let's get right into it. We have, as you can see, a senior advocate of Nigeria joining us right here in our studio, Mr. Wahab Shitu. He's the one we run to when we need to get an understanding of what's going on at the court. Our correspondents are live at the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal and also the Supreme Court. We're expecting that decision on the Osun governorship election. But let's start at the tribunal because that has a national spread. You know, listening to the panel today telling the parties in the case to avoid time wastage, I mean, a lot of people were taken aback, thinking, is that something that some lawyers deliberately do? But what do you make of that statement made by the panel saying, do not waste time on this one?
Yes, because election petition by its nature has a time frame. And since the tribunal is obsessed with the theory of justice, it is more interested in concluding within the time frame. And what the admonition the tribunal has also given is in line with best practices, because the tribunal does not want to be counsel to waste time, so that they'll be able to deliver justice within the time frame. So I think other than that, because the tribunal also has a duty to be in control of the proceedings. As far as proceedings in the court is concerned, members of the tribunal are the masters. Because so they can control the conduct of the proceedings, they can control the conduct of counsel in the course of the proceedings in order to be able to deliver on the time frame. But let me also sound a note of warning that it is important that when we have proceedings of this nature, or any proceedings for that matter, before a court of competent jurisdiction, we should refrain from commenting on the merits of the case before the tribunal, because the case is sub judice.
Indeed.
So I must warn you that if you ask me questions relating to the merit of the case in court, I will disappoint you because I will not respond.
Well, we have the confines of our profession and our professionalism, and we ensure we do not go into that. But just to help Nigerians understand this and see what the law says about the tribunal, the time frame, that's why we have you, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. Never will we go beyond that. But, you know, with these adjournments, we saw the sitting yesterday adjourn some cases till Wednesday, adjourn till today. Today, again, some cases have been adjourned till Thursday. I wonder, does that signify speed for you?
Yes, you see, before the main petition is considered at all, at whatever level, we have what we call the pre-hearing section. That is when you take care of all preliminary applications. If you want to join parties to the petition, you want to amend processes, or you want to make urgent application. That is taken care of at the level of pre-hearing stage. And you can see even the way the Electoral Act is designed, it's so that you must take certain steps within a particular time frame. Failure to take that step within that time frame, of course, has consequences. If you file a petition, you are the petitioner, and the other party responds, and all parties, all processes are in. Within 7 days, you must apply for the pre-hearing notice from TF 007. as the petitioner. Now, if you don't apply, the respondent is under obligation to apply within 7 days if you fail to apply. And if all the two parties refuse to apply, then it means that you have abandoned the petition. The tribunal on its own will invoke his powers to dismiss the petition. That underscores the essence of speed. So what the tribunal is doing at this stage, at the pre-hearing stage, is to ensure that matters, not more than 24 hours, from day to day, to ensure that all preliminary issues are disposed of, allowing the tribunal to focus on the merits of the petition.
Main issue. So it's like building a foundation.
Yes.
This foundation
at that stage, the tribunal will also decide the order of proceedings, the order of calling of witnesses, the order of tendering of documents, and fix a date for trial.
So basically, this is just tidying up.
Yeah, tidying up. It's housekeeping.
Essentially.
Okay,
so let's get live updates from our correspondent, and then I'll come back to you in a moment. Our correspondent, Emanuela, is live at the appeal court, and she brings us this update. What can you tell us about the PDP's case? We understand it was meant to be second, and the court had reconvened for that. So, Emanuela, what can you tell us?
I can tell right now that the court has risen finally from the pre-hearing of the 5 applications, the 5 petitions that was brought before the court, with the last from the PDP. So basically what the PDP brought today was the application to hear the televised motion that he brought before the court that it should be heard today. But the motion is saying that they want the proceedings of the court to be televised live for all to see, for transparency and for the international community to see what's happening in the judiciary, in the tribunal. But the presiding justice, Samani, had said no, that was not going to go on today. He gave them till the next adjourned date, which is the 11th of May, which is a Thursday, for all applications to be taken together. He declined the application from the PDP, asking that their motion should be heard today on the televised, that they want it to be televised live for all to see. And aside that, like we told you earlier, the court also heard the petition from the APM. The APM is also asking that the court should declare that the election of February 25 was null and void, and asking for also a rerun, citing malpractices from the election. But the APC and the presidential-elect council, the president-elect council had dismissed the application, asking the court to dismiss the application, citing that the election was not marred by violence, and the president-elect has the right and is the duly elected president of Nigeria. So all applications have been moved to, both petitions have been moved to Thursday. So the court will continue hearing the petitions from the APM and the PDP. So when we come back here on Thursday, we are going to take the petition. When we come back on Thursday, the court will hear the applications of the PDP on the televised motion that they have before the court.
Well, Emanuela, if you can hear me, I just want to follow up then. So we're looking at Thursday for those cases, APM and the PDP, tomorrow for the Labour Party and the other party in the case. But yesterday we saw protests, right, just not too far from the Court of Appeal. Are there protests as well today?
Absolutely not. The roads today are free. There are no protests on the streets of Abuja. Like we saw yesterday, that some groups had come together saying that the petition, the inauguration should be put on hold pending when the court delivers its verdict on the presidential election. But today, the roads are free. There are no protests from anyone. I'm sure just probably they may have gotten the message that they will not be allowed near the premises of the Court of Appeal, since, just like yesterday, it was also barricaded by the Nigerian police force. Kayode.
Well, our correspondent, Emanuela Ekele, thank you for that update. Of course, we'll get back to you as soon as you have more. Let me come back to you, Senior Advocate. So that's what has played out today in court. So we're looking at tomorrow and Thursday for the resumption. But you said something about the speed. A lot of people, there had been a lot of pressure on the tribunal saying that this should be dispensed with ASAP. And from what you're saying and what the panel said, the speed of this also depends on the councils. They have a huge role to play in how fast or otherwise this goes. And from the conduct you've been seeing, the statements, the protests, what do you make of this, the whole situation, really?
You see, I've earlier expressed the view publicly that when a matter is submitted for adjudication before a court of competent jurisdiction, such as we have now, we should not do anything that will prejudice the proceedings. We should not stampede the court. Including
protests?
Protests are unnecessary when a matter is already pending before the court. You understand me? I think the assumption is that those who are presiding are men and women of integrity. And we need to also to invest faith in our judiciary and our judicial officers. They also have a stake in our country being properly run. I think that faith is important. When you go outside the premises of the court to also protest simultaneously with the conduct of proceedings, you are intimidating the judges. You are also sending a signal that, we don't have confidence. And that is not, because our judiciary is perhaps the best in Africa. Yes.
Is that our own rating? Or?
No, it's not just our own rating. You know, when Nigerians want to do something, they are very good at it. Nigerians, across the professions, we are very good. The thing is, we should not stampede the process. We should not manipulate the process. We should not intimidate the process. And we should just invest faith in the process. If we don't, we should further reinvest faith in the process. I have a very strong faith that this exercise will be determined according to the justice of the case, because the tribunal members also have their individual and collective reputations at stake. And we're also talking about about national interest. So in my own, if you ask me what is the level of faith I have in this exercise, I would say over 100%.
Interesting.
Yes.
Yes. And you've asked Nigerians to invest faith, but I'd like to get your thoughts on what we're expecting from the Supreme Court, really. It moved from the tribunal to the appeal court, and now at the Supreme Court.
Yes.
That's for the Osun governorship election. And I just wonder for you, in terms of the acceptance of this, because it's also another political case, and the conversation has been around having the courts being the ones to decide eventually on political cases. Do you see maybe a way to free up the court such that other cases, civil cases, can be heard?
Okay, I've made the point publicly. When judges decide the final outcome of elections, it is an unhealthy development. It is not a development that we ought to encourage. When we talk of democracy, the ballot box will determine. But you see, when people say they are dissatisfied with the process, we must also look at a democratic means of resolving the issues, because we are in a democracy. And the judiciary is anchored on respect for the rule of law. They are the arbiters. So when you now ask them to come and undertake this kind of task, which ordinarily should not fall on their shoulders, you have to also give them time to be able to look at all the issues in terms of law, in terms of justice, in terms of public policy, in terms of everything, and then they place themselves in the position of the will of the majority, and then decide the case based on the justice of the case.
Well, all eyes on the Supreme Court. But I'd like to thank you so much, Senior Advocate of Nigeria.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you for shedding light on this and asking for that faith, reinvesting faith. That's what you call it.
Yes, reinvesting faith.
In the judiciary.
The alternative is anarchy.
Anarchy. Thank you so much, sir, for your time. Well, let's now head over to the Supreme Court, where our correspondent Emperor Simon is live as Nigerians anticipate the decision of the Apex Court on the Osun governorship election. Can you tell us, Emperor, what time are we expecting the court to convene? Because naturally, a lot of Nigerians are expectant.
Thank you very much, Kayode. If you can hear me at this time, I'm at the Supreme Court right now, and the bandwidth here is very erratic, and so we've been trying to get a good location where we can stand and, of course, give updates to Nigerians as to what is expected here at the Apex Court. Seating is, the court is expected to start sitting by 2 p.m. on the dot. But we're beginning to see stakeholders in the case. That's stakeholders. We've not seen the two major parties yet. That's talking about Governor Adeleke and Mr. Oyetola. We've not seen both of them here, but we're seeing parties belonging or stakeholders belonging to their camps, already showing up at the Supreme Court. Yesterday, when the court sat, there was a bit of back and forth as to some issues with regards to whether overvoting can be determined by the voter register. And there were these arguments from the council to Adeleke and the council to Mr. Oyetola on that issue. And at the end, the panel, which is a 5-member panel led by Justice John Iyan Okoro, decided to reserve judgment until today, 2 p.m. So that's where we are at the moment. We're waiting. Court is already sitting on some matters, political, of course, but the matter involving the Osun governorship election is yet to commence, and any moment soon we would see the court sitting. Now,
okay.
As
Our
I
correspondent,
said, there are 5.
Emperor Simon, I know there's quite a lot to say, so let's keep the gunpowder dry. By 2, I will be back with you to give us all of the updates. Our correspondent, Emperor Simon, live at the Supreme Court, so you know that when the story breaks, Channels Television is live there for you. Thank you so much, Emperor.
That's right. Thank you very much, Kayode.
Well, let's talk about the legislature now. It's a very interesting drama script being written behind the scenes at the National Assembly, and it's beginning to play out. Yesterday, the APC National Working Committee revealed its zoning arrangement and preferred candidates for the 10th Assembly leadership. The party says after meetings with the president-elect and other stakeholders, the Senate president will go to the South-South, with Senator Godswill Akpabio from Akwa Ibom State, and House of Representatives Speaker to the Northwest, which Honorable Abbas Tajuddin from Kaduna, while the Northwest and Southeast take the roles of deputy respectively. But what's interesting is that the Southeast senators are kicking against this zoning, while members of the House and the APC are also not having it. But away from all of this politics is what this means to you, what this means for Nigeria. The 9th Assembly is winding down, the 10th Assembly is coming in. So what should we be paying attention to as Nigerians? We have joining us Mr. Awal Musa Rafsanjani, who's Executive Director, Civil Society Legislative Advocacy Center. CISLAC is the head of Transparency International Nigeria and Amnesty International Nigeria Board of Trustee Chairman and Chairman of the Transition Monitoring Group, joins us live from our Abuja studio. Good evening. It's good to see you again. It's been quite some time. I know you've seen how the members-elect and their parties are carrying on with this 10th Assembly leadership emergence. But what must be done to give Nigerians a solid legislature that can perform its role unhindered?
Thank you very much. It is very important in this 10th Assembly to have leadership that can be acceptable to members, leadership that also has some level of integrity and credibility, leadership that is also going to be focused and be able to do the work as required by our Constitution. The unfortunate development going around now is first, and this is also to tell you the terrible legacy of the anti-corruption under Muhammadu Buhari, that people who are being investigated for monumental looting and stealing of public funds are now being the one even being pushed for leadership position. This is terrible in the sense that it is expected that the outgoing government should have done everything possible to make sure that at least those with baggage of corruption did not continue to hijack political power in the country. But sadly, that has not happened. And now APC, in its wisdom, had decided to appoint some individual to occupy the leadership position in the National Assembly. I have no problem with the zoning of the position, but the APC or the executive cannot decide and impose individual in the legislature if we really want to have proper functioning of the legislature that will also take the interests of Nigerians, not just the interests of the executive or the APC as a party. So it is absolutely necessary that while the APC had decided to do its zoning, which of course is even subject to other political parties, acceptance and agreement based on the individual members' support, it is important that they allow members of the National Assembly to choose their leaders so that there will be, effective leadership. There will be a leadership that is going to be acceptable to members of the National Assembly. Once you insist and impose individuals as leaders of the legislature, then you created a crisis that will make the legislature not to function and not to focus, because you have taken away their responsibility as members to elect among themselves who they should, preside over their over the leadership in the assembly. So it is dangerous,
right,
that anybody will just come and pick up and insist and impose certain individual, because that already has a serious repercussion, because the public perception of the legislature is nothing to write about. And now if you come to have this, already the election, the way the election has gone, a lot of people have reservation, and that is why we have issue in the court. Now to come and have an imposed leadership in the assembly, that will not be good for us.
Well, clearly the coming days will tell a lot as to how this will pan out. And we'll definitely be coming back to you, if you don't mind, Mr. Rafsanjani, to give us more insight, because you've done a lot of work in that area. But for now, we'll have to thank you so much. Quite a number of issues you have raised. It's very important and will need to be followed up on. Mr. Awal Ibrahim Musa Rafsanjani is Executive Director of CISLAC, as well as the other caps he wears, joins us live from Abuja studio. Thank you so much for your time, sir.
Thank you very much.
Well, that's been the program for today, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. Well, there's a lot unfolding in the political space, and trust Channels Television to be live for you to break all of the stories for you. I'm Kayode Kikule. Goodbye.